Venkatesh, thank you so much for coming on today and doing this interview. I've been looking forward to this. We've been trying to sort of plan this interview for the last month, and it's sort of about time that we connected. So I'm really looking forward to this and learning about what you're doing with the multiple companies that you have that you're working on. But first, let's start with a quick bio and tell me about sort of your background and how you got into investing.
Sure, Dhaval. Thank you so much for inviting. I mean, what you guys are doing in Startup Steroid is awesome. I've been watching the other interviews, so I think you guys are doing an awesome job. So happy to
Thank
be
you.
here. As far as bio, I'll keep it quick. I can go on talking for an hour about it, but then my background is I'm from Mumbai. I did my engineering in electronics in Mumbai, and I did my MBA in Mumbai. I worked for almost 7, 8 years in India, in primarily on the sales and business development. I didn't code after my engineering, or I didn't work on the tech piece. I immediately moved into a sales line because I thought that suits my personality. I worked in companies like HCL and IBM. I was leading some of the products in IBM from a sales perspective within India region, and then the Asia Pacific region. And then I came to the US. I'm probably one of the few people who came on a H-1B on sales visa to the US in
Right.
2001. So it's been almost 20 years here. Lived in New York, then New Jersey, and then came to California in Orange County in 2005. So almost 16 years here. Worked in various companies and leadership roles and things like that. Moved from sales to leading companies. And 2016, I founded the multiple companies. So it was a natural graduation from being in sales to leadership roles to founding my own companies. So that's the high level background. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So I know with IBM, they have a really unique sales process, and you've sort
Yes.
of obviously trained with that. I just want to spend a couple of minutes on that and sort of learn about your lessons and the sort of lessons that you sort of bring into the venture world that you might have learned back then. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Sure. I mean, I would definitely name HCL, which is a very famous company in India too, which is known for sales. So I got trained in the hardcore sales in HCL. But what I would say is IBM trained me how not to sell, right? So, so I had to unlearn a lot of selling and make it more biz dev, as they call, which
Yep.
is primarily networking.
Yep.
So that's the key thing takeaway, which I've been doing for the last 25 years, is constantly network with people. I mean, at a personal level, I'm like some people call me a meeting machine or a calling machine. So I meet a lot of people every day. I talk to a lot of people every day. So it's more of networking, and
Mhm.
then not trying to sell. You actually sell when you stop selling. I mean, I hope it makes sense.
Yep.
When you're not selling, that's when the bigger sales happen.
Yep.
For smaller sales, you need to push sales, but for larger sales, you just have to be in front of the people. They need to remember you. There has to be a recollection that, oh, that guy, right? People know me with different names. Somebody calls me Venkatesh, sometimes Venkat, Venki, Ven. But however they call me, the recollection is very important.
Right.
And that's what I learned from IBM more, that don't push people, don't try to sell. Selling will just happen naturally, gradually, right? So,
Right. And that's such an important lesson for a lot of people
right,
because, that's where the concept of sleazy salesperson that
right,
really comes out, right?
right.
You don't want to be the sleazy salesperson.
Mhm.
You want to naturally just build relationships. And when
Correct,
people need something, they remember you, they call you.
correct, absolutely.
Fantastic. So let's sort of now, you've sort of brought us up until 2015, 2016 when you were starting your own companies. Tell me
Right.
about that experience and what was the sort of initial idea that you had in your mind going after that?
I was very clear, even when I was working in my job, that I will be doing something in the tech industry, right? I'm not, as I said, I'm not a hands-on technical person, but I do understand the tech. I do understand the B2B market. I understand the enterprise market a lot. I know how CIOs and CTOs or even innovation officers make decisions, right? So it was a natural thing for me to get into the tech business. A few things I was very clear is I don't want to get into staffing. Not that I am against it. It's not my core,
Right.
experience or background of the value I bring in. So it was primarily building products and launching products. Now I know that a lot of large companies and Fortune companies don't outsource products. They use you as a service vendor.
Mhm.
So definitely there is a combination of providing services of integrating products, upgrading from a legacy system to a new system, moving things to cloud because 5 6 years back cloud were just picked up. So
Yep.
moving from a desktop to a cloud applications and things like that. So when I started with that mindset, and it hit up pretty well. I mean, we had our first large customer within 45 days of founding the company. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So I guess building those relationships really did pay off, and I'm guessing those first couple of customers were probably part of your network before then, right?
Even now, we don't have a salesperson. I mean, we are 110 people company, but no salespeople. It's just
Wow.
flows through me, through referrals and repeat customers. So yeah, network makes a big difference. That's why I tell a lot of young people, focus on building network. Right?
Right.
You can do a lot of things once you have a good network. Whatever business you start, right? So
That's such an important lesson. That's fantastic. The fact that you have a 110-person company and no salespeople, it would be shocking to most everyone on the street. That's fantastic.
right.
So tell me that initial. So you knew you wanted to work in sort of the IT infrastructure type
Sure.
area. You touched on some of the companies, but how did you actually implement it? So how did you start building your team? How did you start
Sure.
connecting, making that connection?
For me, team is everything. So even before I founded the company, in fact, even before I kept the name of the company, I had my leadership team. When I say leadership team, a combination of partners, co-founders, and also non-co-founders who are leadership people, right? In different areas. So I had my team ready even before chose the name for the company.
Wow. Okay.
So that because so as I told before, I'm not a hands-on guy. I can't write a code. I can't write an
Right.
app. I can't build an app, right?
Right.
I don't go to the server and do anything. So for me, team is everything. I'm dependent very much on the team for everything, right?
Right.
So my team was in place even before I started, and that also was because of the network, because of the trust you have. And they are awesome people. They trusted me. They came up in a no salary or low salary with equity, and some of them no equity. Those kind of different combinations that you bring in place.
Yep.
And I had the team both in the US and India even before the companies were incorporated.
Wow.
Uh, they were in their own jobs. We knew that we were going to work together. I was the only guy who had quit my job. And with 45 days of hustling through my network, I got the first project and pretty much could get all the leadership people out of their jobs to afford their salaries.
Wow.
So
Fantastic.
that's how it started. So I was the only guy, and then got a project, got those right people who had already committed. They quit their jobs, they trusted me, and then the challenge starts. You have the first project, then you need the next one to keep them busy and the salaries to be paid. So one thing leads to the next, and then we've been lucky, we've been blessed, and then it's been 5 years and it's going well. So
Wow. Okay. So a couple of things I want to unpack there. You mentioned having teams both in US as well as in India. What was
sure.
sort of the idea of that breakdown? What's the team in India doing? How are they sort of supporting the team in US or vice versa?
Sure. Right. So the first company I started was Saguna Consulting, which is all development company and ID company as it's called. Now, India was primarily an offshore development center, right? Like how typically it's being used. So all customers from the US and India was offshore development center. We got a couple of projects in the life sciences and the healthcare industry in the initial days, and we realized there's a huge market there, and a niche market, especially the life sciences and the biotech. Healthcare is big and broad,
Yep.
so, but the life sciences and biotech are very niche, and clinical trials, those kind of very specific sub-industry or sectors, as we can call. There's
Hmm.
a market. So what I did was I formed a separate company called HugeNX because I wanted it to be very specifically focused on healthcare tech, and it could have its own exit strategy or growth strategy, right? So I formed a new company. So what I did in India then is Huge X team does a lot of research. We buy a lot of wearables. We set up our own sort of a clinical trial lab, a testing lab, and then do projects and do research before we even go to the customer, right?
Wow.
So,
Okay.
so Saguna is more of a development company, which is more reactive, whereby we get a project and we deliver a project.
Right.
QGenX is more of a proactive. We basically do a research backend and we go to a customer, we go to pharmaceutical companies, we go to pharmacies and say, hey, we can do this for you, right? So
Okay. Okay.
that's a long answer for your question. So India is, India started off as a development center, moved into more of a research for healthcare center, a research in the
Mm-hmm.
tech side, right? We bought Fitbit, we bought wearables, we saw how it can be integrated to different systems, and then went with a solution to the customer. So it was more proactive than being reactive, right? And then we got into the India market. We have customers in India now also, right?
Right.
So that was the different stages of how India happened. So
Fantastic. Okay. So let's break down each of those. I know there are
sure,
probably some founders who are in the audience who are in the medtech space.
sure,
So let's try to understand that essentially the R&D facility that you have in
sure.
India and
Right.
what you're sort of doing with that. Tell me a little bit more about the team and about what kind of areas you focus on.
So as I said, the healthcare is pretty vast, right? So, but then the core focus we have is life sciences. When I say life science, specifically diagnostic laboratories, these are called reference laboratories, not
Mm-hmm.
the question, the lab code that we walk in to draw our blood. These are back end laboratories where specimens goes from the hospital to the lab for any
Right.
form of. Right now, we are doing a lot of COVID testing, but even cancer diagnostics testing. So specimen could be swabs or urine, blood, skin samples, tissues, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we do in the research center in India is we basically look at the different samples that enters the lab. We look at what is the pain point. We go into how FedEx delivers the packet. What happens in the first stage? You barcode it. So every process in different industries, we start researching it. So we hire people from the industry, either on full time or contract, based on how we want them to be, or as a consultant, right? And then we get the process that happens in each of these areas, right? And then we use technology, primarily development, software side. We don't do anything on the hardware side.
Mm-hmm.
So primarily software technology, and we see what can be developed, what can be integrated, and what can be automated. These are the three key buckets we put that into, right? What is
Right.
the new development? What is the integration with the existing system? Like
Mm-hmm.
instruments from Johnson and Johnson or LifeTech or Illumina. We do a lot of integration. Beckman Coulter, right?
Right.
And then the third one is the I just said development, integration, and what was the third one I said? Oh, I lost
Yeah.
my chain. But then that's what the research team does there, right? And
Okay.
then we proactively go and talk to the prospective customer and say, this is what the solution we propose for you. This is how we can make your clinical trial process efficient. This is how we can make your survey to your pharmacy customers more efficient, right? So, and then HIPAA compliance, PHI compliance, any of the FDA regulations, we have a lot
Right.
of knowledge of those things. So, what I'm trying to say, which in the keeping the audience in mind for Startup Steroid, is if you are a founder of a medtech or any form of technology company, today it's very important not to get stuck with the tech piece only. That I'm a
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft provider or I'm a AWS provider. It is very important to understand the industry
Mm-hmm.
and then come up with a solution to them instead of going and asking them. I call it, you can either go as a waiter in a restaurant and say, tell me what you want me to do, right?
Right.
Or you go as a true consultant and says, I think will be good for your industry. This is how
Right.
we can save you money, efficiency. Like in the laboratory space, just the last point, we improve a lot of turnaround time. It's called TAT, turnaround time.
Mm-hmm.
From the time the specimen comes to the lab from the hospital, how fast that the report goes back to the patient, whether they are COVID positive, negative, or their cancer diagnostic is positive or negative. How important is that to get back in 6 hours? The
Right.
patient and the family, everybody is in anxiety.
Right.
So tech can improve all this. So that's the area that, even though it's ultimately an app development or a web development, but that's just the approach that we go through for the larger customers and also with
Right.
startups. I mean, we work with a lot of startups. So
Yep, yep. No, and this is such a fantastic sort of having that broad overview, understanding the entire system, and then making improvements, on
yeah,
every step of the way.
right.
I know we've talked about before, before the call, we've talked about a few sort of processes where you've essentially cut, the delivery time of that report from 7 days down to just 2, 3, 4
Few
days.
hours. Right.
Few hours, right? So
Right.
it's pretty amazing what you're able to achieve with that kind of that big picture thinking. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
But let's go back and talk about Saguna and the IT piece of the
Sure.
puzzle,
Right.
because I think a lot of founders who are not in medtech space are probably interested in that as well.
Correct.
So what's sort of how does a client engage with you? Do they
Correct.
say, I want this app built, and then you build it for them, or does it start with a bigger conversation first?
It usually starts with a bigger conversation. As I said, I don't go through the regular sales channel of knocking the door and sales
Right,
guy reaching out to, right? So it's usually starts with a bigger conversation whereby I try to understand what's going right with them and what they're not happy about. And this applies to both the customer stream. When I say clients are people whom we service, right? So it could be a large customer with a lot of IT budgets with them, or it could be a startup founder who wants to build a product.
right,
I engage with them first at a level to understand their needs, and then I bring my team in. So we basically do a thorough understanding of what industry they are in. I spoke in detail about the healthcare and life science, but we are pretty strong on fintech. We are pretty strong on the auto industry, very strong on the retail and the e-commerce industry. So there are 6 or 7 industries we are pretty strong, and all non-healthcare we do it through Saguna Consulting, right?
got it.
So we engage at that level, try to understand what they're trying to build, or what they're trying to modify, or what they're trying to upgrade, and then come up with a solution. And then it goes to the team size, durations, estimates. If it's a startup, we do a combination of cash plus equity, or some of the deals we just do equity and build a product and manage it. Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. So a founder who might have a grand vision and has an idea can
Sure.
essentially connect with you, and you can essentially develop the entire back end for them. And it may be a cash deal, or it may just be a pure equity deal based on what the founder is looking for.
The 3 models that we engage with, as you said, just a pure cash model, or cash plus equity, or it could be a cash plus revenue share, because some of the founders don't want to give up the equity, and we're not really trying to suck the equity out of them, because it becomes a problem sometimes for funding.
Right,
So we don't mind doing a cash plus revenue share. So if they do well, we get paid, right? But then, of course, we have a criteria where we select the right partners. Right now, we work with 19 startups, 16 in the US and 3 in India.
okay,
Um, so right from the idea stage, or sometimes even if it's not in the idea stage, they've already pre-seeded and they have an MVP in place. But we can do right from the MVP to phase 1, launch it, we maintain it. I get on their board if they need me to be part of, all of those things. So, but then
right.
we develop the product, maintain it, manage it, customize it, go to the next level. So we're the extended IT and software team, basically.
Right, right, right. That's a fantastic way to look at it. You're essentially taking the entire IT back office function out of the company, and you can essentially take care of all of those
So the
services.
founders can focus on the core.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
So now let's talk about the third piece of the puzzle,
Sure.
which is actually getting the cash investment into the company.
Correct.
Now, I understand you have a third company set up for doing specifically that. Tell
Right.
me a little bit about that.
So that's a new company. It's called Ventures Unlimited, which was just founded this year in 2021. It's been 2 months,
Okay.
but I've been working on that for the last 6 months. The reason for that was we are taking care of the entire spectrum of their IT, their product, their CTO requirement, their co-founder requirement. being on their pitch decks, being on their pitch presentations, giving confidence to the investors for even scalability, security, and all those questions that they have. The missing puzzle was basically money, right? So I thought, why not get into that and provide investment to the startups that we work with also. So
Mm.
the Ventures Unlimited, to start with now, it may change 2 years from now, but for now, Ventures Unlimited is primarily funding those companies which basically has the technology piece working with either Saguna or Hugenex, one of the two IT companies that I have, right?
Got it.
Because that's the value I want to bring back to those people who trusted us and we worked as a partner, saying,
Right.
hey, I can bring you money for that, right? So Ventures Unlimited primarily is investment. We're looking at a minimum investment of 1 million to the startups. We're not funding anything smaller than that.
Hmm.
And then funding both the India-based startups and the US-based startups. So,
Fantastic.
as I said, to start with, it is for those companies which is working and partnered with us on the technology piece. 2 years down the line, it may operate like a typical VC, which will be funding other companies too. So,
Got it. Got it. So this is sort of a VC fund in the making, if you would.
awesome. Right.
But I really love the fact that if a founder comes to you and
Right.
needs, essentially he's at an idea stage, he has this grand vision. You can essentially start by providing them the IT infrastructure, but then also you have a source of funding that you can essentially start to fund
Correct. Right.
the startup and help them build a team or whatever else they need. Right? That's the
Absolutely.
vision.
That's the vision. They just focus on their business operations, their legal, their marketing, those things. The IT and the funding we can take care of. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay, so you said that as of right now you're working with about 19 companies. Is that right?
Right.
Okay, so what's the vision for 2021? What's the next step for you? What do you want to achieve?
So honestly, Dhaval, I mean, we didn't even know if we would be able to make this happen because when I got into the startup side of the business 2 years back, we signed up with a couple of startups at no cash, all equity, and then they had no interest working with us, and it failed. We lost a lot of money because we invest in people. We have our developers, our testers, tech, and all of those. We set up the internal servers for them, the dev environment, the testing environment. So there's a lot of investment that we need to make for every client or every startup.
Right,
So I learned the hard way of how to partner with the startup, right? So that it's a win-win situation, right?
right.
So that learning has got us this far. So I didn't have a number in my mind on how many startups we would work with,
Hmm.
right? Now with this experience, right now for 2021, it's a different way. I get calls almost every day, either from India or here. I mean, India people WhatsApp me, right? So I get reached out a lot from a lot of startups right now. So what we are doing is we are talking to them and we are basically trying to get the right match. I won't say no anybody's good or bad. It just has to be the right match.
Right.
So I'm looking at, to give you a number, not for 2021, but for 2022. I want to take it to 30 startups by the end of next year,
Got it. So
right?
add maybe 10 to 12 companies to
10
that
to
list.
12 in the next 2 years, right? Because for us, it's a big risk, right? We invest in people. So constantly what I'm doing is larger customers, Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 customers are the people who gives us the profit, the money.
Yeah.
And I'm moving that money profits into working with startups, right?
Right.
Hoping that one of them or few of them would click in the long run. And also, I mean, this country is built based on somebody took a risk on some founder, right?
Yeah.
So that was another thing that when I saw 2 years back that a lot of startups were having a tough time building an MVP because they needed money to do it and nobody was willing to do it on cash, on equity,
Right.
right? So that was the thing we started off saying, hey, don't worry about it. We will build it for you. If you click, we click. If you're vested into it, right? So
Right.
so yeah. So yeah.
That's such a fantastic model because you're essentially becoming the founder's partner, right? To
Yes.
to a large extent,
Correct.
and if they win, you win. If they lose, you lose.
Right.
So all the
And
incentives are
what
aligned.
One point I'll make on that, you really said the right thing. We're a partner with them. And what happens, a traditional software company would like to have a long-term project, right? They want a
Hmm.
6-month project. When we work with a startup, we try to do an MVP in 1.5 months to 2 months, because we don't want to invest too many people on it for too long a
Right.
time, because I
Right.
don't make money out of it. And they want to launch it quick so that the investors and the market sees it fast, so that it's a win-win, that we knock it off and launch it like in a very short span of time, and move my team into our next startup to work on, right? So
Exactly, and that's what I mean by all the incentives are aligned.
correct.
That everybody's trying to do the same thing and pulling the cart in the same direction, which is
Right.
fantastic.
Right. Right.
Um, Now, when you go through this process, let's say you're looking for 10 to 12 companies over the next 2 years, what are
Okay.
some of the key things you look for from founders, from the idea, from the company itself? What's top of mind when you're analyzing a new project?
Topmost is the founder or
Founders.
founders, right?
Hmm.
Their energy, their enthusiasm, their passion, right?
Yep.
That they're willing to go above and beyond to make it happen. How much does this startup mean for them, right?
Hmm.
So for me personally, before my team gets involved into getting into the idea stage, or talking about the business and forecasting and things like that, for me, I need to talk to them in person on a video call or meet them in Starbucks to really feel the passion. I need to feel that energy from them, right? That's what I see, and it's not about communications. It's not about the language they use. It's more about how much passionate they are. If somebody comes to me and says that I'm going to try it for 2 months, if it works, great. If not, then it's a no-no for me, right?
Right. Right.
So, how much are they willing to stick their neck out? It's not about the money. We don't want them to sell their home to make a startup. It's more of how much passionate they are. So
Right.
that's the number one criteria to even move to the next stage, right?
Yep.
And then, like any other investor, I prefer startups which has more than one founder, right? It helps a lot. If there are two or more, it's always better, right?
Yep. Yep.
So, but that's the number one. After that comes the idea. After that comes the forecast, the business plans, and the competition, all the regular pitch that happens, right?
Right. 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 When you are looking for founders, are there any specific things that are sort of red flags for you? If they're too young, too old, if they have had exits before or not have that, any specific things that you can sort of highlight?
No, I mean, since you brought the age factor, the oldest founder CEO we have is 68, and the youngest is a junior in Cal State Long Beach,
Wow.
right?
Okay.
So yeah, because I'm part of the mentor group in Cal State Long Beach. I mentor a lot of kids in the entrepreneur department who wants to start up. So yeah,
Right.
so age is not the criteria. Their past experience of having a startup or owned a business is not the criteria. It's
Got it.
primarily their passion, and why do they believe this is going to work? Have they thought about it like a consumer if they're in the B2C market? And if they're in
Right.
the B2B market, have they thought about as a prospective customer, would they use this product if somebody had launched it, right?
Right. Right. Right.
These are the criteria that I have. Why are you building it? I mean, why are you trying to sell this? Why are you trying to market this, right?
Hmm.
Uh, so those are the questions I ask personally from my side to see if they fit into that. If they're very passionate, and if that's an idea that I may not be believing today, but if I can sync with their vision, right?
Right.
That's when I introduce them to my team, who then goes through the other sets of questions and the experts in the team, right? So,
Got it. Got it. So you're really looking for that passion to come through, and they have to paint that picture of the future where
right.
they're going to rule the world, essentially, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. So now we already talked about the industries. You highlighted a few industries that you really prefer, a couple of others that are sort of secondary. What else? What other criteria is important as far as IT infrastructure, as far as any other aspect of the business that you sort of look at? It might be secondary, tertiary, but something that you like to focus on.
I would say the extent of market research they have done. I see a lot of founders. They're very passionate about their product. They research a lot about how they can build that product or market their product, but they've done a very mediocre research on what's existing in the market.
Mm.
So as soon as the founders, if I ask a question, who are your competitors, and they say I have no competition, then it's a red flag for me, right?
Okay, got it.
They can say that there's nobody similar to us. We are unique in these perspectives, but it's not even possible that there's no competition for you, right?
Yeah.
Right? Was there no competition when Netflix came? No, Dish and cable is a competition. They may not be
Well,
an OTT, right? You know what I'm saying?
yeah. No, I remember a very interesting quote from the CEO of Netflix about, this is 6, 7 years ago, maybe even more. But someone asked him, and they went through all of the usual competitors, and the Netflix CEO at the end said, our biggest competitor is sleep.
Right.
So, if you say you have no competition, then you're obviously missing something.
You're missing something. You've not researched it enough, right?
Right.
Right. You're taking the market for granted. You're taking the audience for granted, right?
Yep. Exactly.
So that's the whatever industry they are, because we may not be an expert in all the industry. So we try to learn from the founders what research they have done,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's very important. So industry and vision and all of those, their forecasts, their numbers, it's all great. But I see a lot of people have not done a lot of research on their competitions or the market and things like that. So
Right. That's fantastic. So I think I've asked you a lot of questions. Is there anything else I've left off that you want to cover in this interview? I want to sort of open it up for you.
no, I think you've done great. You took a lot of things out of my head.
Thank you so much. One I always like to end with an action step for the founders who are listening. If
Right.
they are looking to connect with you, if they are looking to have you as an investor or a partner in their company, what
Yeah.
is one thing that they absolutely have to have? We talked about a lot of different things: market research, passion, et cetera, et cetera. What is one thing without which you won't even answer the phone? You won't even reply to their email?
Open to talking on the phone. Honestly,
Okay.
you'll be surprised, Dhaval, that a lot of people are so comfortable just sending emails and text messages and forwarding pitch decks. For me, the most important thing, if somebody says, "Are you free to talk?" I'm there. So
Right.
for me, the most important thing is they should be willing to talk. They should be willing to come on an online meeting or willing to, if they're local, meet me locally, right?
Right.
So that's the most important thing. And what, as I said, whatever stage they are in their idea stage, they're a kid, they're a student, they're working right now, whatever they're doing doesn't matter. What's important is they need to be able to talk, come on the phone, meet in person if need be, and be able to explain their idea, be able to explain their vision more effectively. That's all is needed. So
And answer the questions.
answer the questions. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And I know exactly why you're asking that after the conversation we just had. You want to see that passion, right? That come through on the call. When you speak to them, you can hear it in their voice, or when you see them,
Right.
you can see it in their eyes, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Fantastic. Venkatesh, thank you so much for coming on today. I really enjoyed the
Mhm.
conversation. I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed sort of understanding your process. And I hope to see you on the golf course soon. So
Good. Absolutely. Thank you, Dhaval. Thanks for the invitation.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye bye.